What's up, guys? We're back. All right. Zach, afternoon. Good afternoon, man. Texas A&M this week. The storylines write themselves. That is 100% right. But Kyle, where you been? Georgia Tech craps the bet against UM, and you're scarce. Sus. Well, yesterday, I did a stream Sunday night where I fully, mea culpa. Obviously, going into that series, I thought, man, Georgia Tech's got a legit chance to sweep. Miami ended up playing just like the best baseball they've played all year almost. And Georgia Tech played by far the worst baseball they've played all year. So it was a bad combination for a weekend if you're Georgia Tech. But yesterday, I actually used my oldest son's first sleepover at my parents' house. So I had to drive him down. And there was kind of only I could only do it at a certain time, and it had to be during the stream, so that's why I couldn't do it yesterday. Apologies. White House, what's up, fellas? What's up, man? John, looking forward to Georgia Tech, Auburn, and Clemson UGA today? Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, you look at Georgia, tough weekend for them, right? Tough weekend for Georgia, go 1-3, and Georgia Tech goes 0-4 last week. Georgia Tech dropped 10 spots in the rankings. Which again, I'm just like, golly, like 10 spots? That seems like a bit ridiculous. But again, if you're 14-7 in the ACC, that's still really good, So I do think with D1 baseball, the ACC teams tend to get punished like way more than a lot of other teams. I mean, they have Oregon State at number 3, guys. After it was like close ball games all weekend against Cal State Northridge. And I get like D1's going to say, well, you can't penalize a team for winning. But when your team is facing literally no one, like Oregon State, to me, I just cannot believe they're ranked where they're at. I mean, it's unbelievable. And again, they're playing nobody. Georgia Tech got to do serious work to get back to a host. They don't really have to do serious work, Zach. I mean, like, think about it like this. If they just win the remaining series, which are all very winnable, they're still fine, right? Because they're like, again, they're 14-7 in the ACC. They have 9 games left. Realistically, they can still get to 20 wins in the ACC, and they're definitely a host, and it probably should be a national seed. But I will tell you, if like teams like Oregon State are going to get national seeds, what's the point of playing in a conference? Like, think about that. Why would you play in a conference in baseball if you can just play kind of a very weak schedule, and as long as you play well against teams you should beat, you're going to be a national seed? I mean, I just don't get it. Oregon State doesn't even make a super. Yeah, I agree. I don't think so either. Oregon State's so overrated. Oregon State ranked number 3 is absurd. Florida has a chance at the tournament. They looked good against Mississippi State. Yeah, I have to. We'll look into that in a second. White House. They won 4-3 last night against Gonzaga. Yeah, I mean, they're just like, again, they're barely beating teams let's figure out what would the score be. Texas versus Cal State Northridge. What would the score Clemson versus them? Florida State, Arkansas, Tennessee, like LSU, North Carolina, Georgia, Vandy, Georgia Tech. I mean, it's ridiculous to me. There's no way. Again, are they a top 25 team? Sure. Are they a top 5 team? No way. No way. They were questioning the strength of Georgia Tech's wins. I get that. Georgia Tech's ACC schedule is it's a very easy schedule in terms of, like, if you look at anybody's ACC schedule. Now, what you have to remember is Georgia Tech should have won the series against Clemson. Clemson has not lost a weekend series in the ACC. Georgia Tech should have beat them. So that tells you something, right? That tells you something that Georgia Tech was 3 outs away from beating Clemson in a series and actually had a chance to sweep. They actually had a chance to sweep. They almost won Friday night. So again, it's just like, Georgia Tech, and again, not defending Georgia Tech how they played this past week. They did not look good. They looked terrible against Miami. They didn't look bad against Georgia. It was a fairly decent game. They looked really bad against Miami. But every team has a weekend like that typically. So it's just weird how it's kind of how D1 baseball is kind of holding the ACC to like a really high standard. And I could play for Gonzaga, John says. Good afternoon. What's up, Canes? Oregon State will get an easy regional because they will get 2 or 3 West Coast in their regional. Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. It's interesting. Again, it's like, and that's the flaw of the whole regional system, is that when the regional system was created, you had really strong teams. It was very even parity across all the regions of the United States, and now it's just not the case. So, like, you shouldn't just get it should not be a thing that, well, we need some regionals on the West Coast. Sorry, like, be one of the best teams in the country. You shouldn't just get gifted a regional because, we need a few West Coast regionals. That's ridiculous in my mind, because that's not a meritocracy. D1 had an interesting discussion yesterday with Rooney calling out the Big Ten ADs, saying they should fully fund 34 baseball scholarships, as it's unclear if they will. Otherwise, they are giving up. Yeah. I mean, that's the truth with any college baseball team, especially in the Power Four, that is not going to significantly increase their scholarships. Like, I wouldn't say giving up, Buck, but you're definitely, like, you can't go to the coach and be like, well, why aren't we winning the conference? Or why aren't we making the NCAA tournament? It's like, well, we're working with like 13 scholarships and these guys got 25. It's not an even playing field. Did you see the pitch Justin LeBron got rung up on against LSU? I feel like that was a huge momentum shift. Yeah, I did. It was bad. And again, you're very right, White House. It very well definitely was a momentum shift, because if that's a walk, then it's bases loaded, 2 outs, and anything can happen. That definitely was a really bad call. And most of the time, your really bad calls by umpires don't have a massive impact on the game. But that was a call that could have swung a multiple run change in the ending score. Right, that could have been a couple runs for Alabama that inning, but they ended up getting 0. It's still unclear whether the conferences or the individual schools are setting the scholarship levels per sport. Well, from what I've heard, Buck, the conferences can set basically the maximum amount you're allowed, right? So again, if the Big Ten says, no one's allowed to go to 34, well then you are giving up, right? You should at least say, give as many as you want, because we want to have a few competitive teams for nationally and everything like that. But again, it's if they say no to that, that's ridiculous. Zach Lesnar, did you see Jacob Wilson's stats for the A's? 3.7 strikeout rate, 0 walk rate, 92% contact rate. Yeah, I saw all of that. 45% chase rate. He hasn't seen a 4-ball count. Well, yeah, if he hasn't walked, he hasn't seen a 4-ball count. That's for sure. It's one of those, man. I would be worried about some serious regression. I mean, I looked at his BABIP today, and his BABIP was like basically the exact same as his batting average, which generally, even for guys that can really run, it's usually a good like 30 or 40 point difference. Your BABIP is 30 or 40 points higher than your batting average. So look for Jacob Wilson to regress down to closer to 300. You got to get that walk rate up. I mean, he's with that high a bat to ball, he should be able to work some walks. Sorry, 3-ball count. Yeah, I know what you meant. Hasn't got a 3-ball count? That's crazy. Steve Moser, looking for national coverage? Yeah, give me that national coverage, Steve. Send it my way. I'll take it. 100%. Hey, give me some details, Steve. What are you talking about? I need to know. Danny Burke, what's up, Burke? In a huge series where they could have locked up ACC probably host spot. Who's calling me? I don't know. And probably host spot. Georgia Tech played like a 7-year-old looking to retire at season's end. No fire, no urgency. If I'm a GT fan, I'm a little nervous. Yeah, nothing you said is wrong there, Burke. Nothing you said is wrong. They offensively looked really bad. They had some big situations where they could have kind of gotten within striking distance and just nothing. Pitching looked bad. Defense was the one that looked just really bad. I mean, the defense, they gave away so many, and it's not even the errors. It's like plays that should be outs they didn't make either. So like there was so many of those this past weekend. So I agree with you, man. They didn't look good. So you just hope, really the coaching, as a coaching staff, when that happens, there's really nothing much you can say. You just got your ass kicked for 3 days, and you got to reset. You got to refocus, flush it. It's over. Like, we wish we played better, but so what? It's over. We got to do something different. The West Coast schools are more serious about baseball. Who are more serious about baseball might regret their joining of the Big Ten if they do limit it. Except we all know where the money is coming from. Yeah. I just don't get why the Big Ten would limit it. That just makes no sense. Why would you limit how many scholarships a school can offer? Right? You're not telling them they have to do it, but just make it the maximum amount. I'm sure someone brought up Jared Kalenic not running into Acuna's comments. I was wondering what you would do as the manager. Man, that is a media firestorm, right? And Acuna was so out of bounds. Like, listen, do I think Snit handled it right? I think the history is the right context to bring up. I mean, Acuna, that was an issue with Acuna for a long time, that he would kind of dog it down the line and would, pimp it sometimes and didn't go out, and then something. So he didn't get pulled the first time. Now, I disagree with that. I think if a guy does that, take him out of the game. You know why? Because you take him out of the game once for doing it, he will never do it again. I think Kalenic should have been taken out of the game, just to be honest. But Acuna tweeting that was so out of bounds. And me personally, I'm just like, that would be a serious conversation with the GM or president of baseball ops, Anthopoulos, with Acuna. I think you have to have a conversation like, dude, you can't do that. Baseball for a good number of the Power Four probably isn't too far off from being profitable, at least SEC, ACC. You're right. You're right, Buck. I mean, a lot. I mean, even like Georgia Tech, there's so many more fans there than when I played. And again, like, I think selling alcohol at the games has helped a lot too, but there's just way more people. Let's see here. Dude, you guys are pummeling me with the comments right now. It's insane. I love it, though. Keep it coming. Have you seen Oregon's offensive stats? They're crazies. They're crazy. Like 5 guys to over 10 home runs. We'll look at it in a second. Georgia Tech couldn't bring in Patel or Payton at any point with the lead. Yeah, and again, that's the formula for Georgia Tech. And Dusty said it best, right? Like, if you're Miami and you can get them both to pitch on Friday, that's priority number one. But another one is, you just get off to such a big lead that you can't even utilize them, right? And that's something to keep in mind. Like, Payton and Patel got a little bit of a workload decrease this past weekend, so maybe they'll kind of be refreshed. Has the ACC or Big 12 set a limit yet? Clemson and Arizona State already said they're doing 34. I don't think the ACC will. I don't think the ACC will limit scholarships. That would just be ridiculous. I would be really surprised if the Big 12 would. I have heard that with the Big 10, so who knows? We'll have to see. No limit. Only conference that has confirmed they will be limiting teams is the SEC. I sent it to you in February, Kyle. Yeah, what was the number again, Canes? Let us know. Honest questions. Why does any conference limit scholarships? I don't know. I mean, I guess in some regards, you could think, well, if there's only 2 teams in our 16-team conference that are going to go to all full rides, then they're going to have a huge advantage. So maybe for parity reasons. But again, like, if you want your conference to win national championships, you're going to have teams that have all full rides. I mean, that's going to be a huge advantage. So Patrick, it's a good question. I don't know why. There's really no other reason besides that. Title IX, Patrick, most likely. Good point, Canes. That's also a good one. Patrick, it's part of the NCAA settlement. Yep. Concern over Title IX? Yeah, I thought so. Thanks. Yeah, no problem, dude. Kyle is drowning in comments. That's right. I'm speed reading these. D1 Baseball is doing a live bracketology show. Yeah, we can pull it up. We might just pull that up and watch it. You're not winning a championship when your star player is sub-tweeting and shit-posting your manager. What a nightmare. And for a guy who's played half a season the past few years, yeah, I mean, Canes, that's about as bad as it gets. Or Danny, or Burke, that's about as bad as it gets. I mean, to tweet that Again, you're dogging your teammate, you're dogging your manager, and what good is going to come from it? That's just like a bitter, like, dude, you're making hundreds of millions. Like, who cares? Relax. It's a bad look for Acuna, and again, that's going to cause issues in the clubhouse. 100%, it's going to cause issues. Yeah, D1 Nerdcast is on 25 scholarships. That's what the Texas coach said. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it was like in the mid-20s. What did Acuna say? Acuna said basically, well, if it was me out there, they would have pulled me. That's what he said. Well, when in reality, like, he did that a bunch and never got pulled, and then finally, got pulled after it was just becoming such an issue that something had to be done. Pull the live Nerdcast up so we can see their seedings this week. All right, we're pulling it up. Let me change my thing here. Nerdcast. Where's Nerdcast? There we are.
Point, dude.
Let's get into that.
Let's indeed. On to part 2.
Oh, I thought it was a player on Georgia Tech. No. Braves are done. Move along. Yeah, I mean, that's tough to come back from as a team. I was getting ready to recruit them to the U. Let me turn the volume down a little bit here.
Conference, also known as the America East.
All right, so let's look at these hosts right now. Like, this is the thing that's insane to me, guys. This is what's insane to me. Georgia Tech is in the number 2 conference in the country. They are 14-7 in the ACC, and they're not projected to host. But Oregon State's a national seed. I mean, it's just ridiculous. TCU lost this weekend, and they're going to be a host, and they're barely in the top 25.
On to the American Athletic. Last week this was a one-bit.
Right? Can you guys? Someone back me up. The TCU is in the top. It was barely in the top 25. I don't even think.
Not happening.
Say 2 games up on.
Let me pull something up real quick.
I think they're tracking toward that large. Should they get knocked off?
Yeah, TCU went 1-3 last week. They're out of the top 25, but they're going to be a host.
If you look at the remaining schedule,
can you guys? So right now, you guys, let me just take myself off of this.
Go up about 18 to 19 spots in the RPI over the last week. And they still do.
Let's take the chat down as well. Actually, we'll keep the chat up because we don't need to see the rest of it. Okay, maybe we should do 1 month left. Striders on the IL again. The Braves are cooked. Yeah, it's bad. I bought all my College World Series tickets in the pre-sale. Let me turn the volume off of this real quick. 1 month left. Who are their top 16? Their top 16. You guys should be able to see it now. Insane that TCU is a host. Maybe we should do our own SS and publish out the ESA top 25 and bracket. I think they're trying to not have all the national seeds be SEC and ACC. Yeah, I get that, but it's like, sorry, like, if you want to be a national seed, you gotta play the toughest schedules and have the best record. Like, I'm sorry that that's what has happened to the West Coast and other places, but like, the ACC and the SEC are just the dominant conferences. Have any of these D1 guys played college baseball? I think Etheridge was a coach. Let me see. Maybe not. No, Etheridge wasn't a coach. He's just been covering D1 baseball. He's been covering baseball for a long time. Let's see what you guys are saying. Not any that I know have played, except for like the guy pitcher from Virginia who does a lot of the funny, like the kind of like the joke stuff. What's up, fellas? I see we have some guests on. Yeah. Arizona is a host. Yes, Arizona is in there as a host as well. Let's see here. Arizona's 28-11. And that like Arizona went, like, who did, I mean, it's like, you can't even make it up, man. It's like, let's see. Put the best teams in. Who cares the conference? Yeah. How's UCLA 15 ahead of Oregon after this weekend? Dude, again, that's the problem. That's the problem, guys, with the regional system. When in reality, we should just add an extra round, add whatever the amount of teams you need more, and make like the first weekend the lowest seeds versus a couple that like basically the lowest seeds play each other then to make it to the next weekend. Because what you have is you have all these teams that are like projected host, and you're like Arizona is 12-6 in conference. Georgia Tech is 14-7, and Georgia Tech has a better overall record, and they're not projected as a host. And Georgia Tech's projected to go to Clemson as the 2 seed. How does that make any sense? Shouldn't Georgia Tech, if let's say Georgia Tech would be the 17th host, if that was the case, wouldn't they go to like one of the worst? Like you don't send the best 2 seed to the number 2. That's why the whole thing doesn't make sense, right? The whole thing doesn't make sense. Arizona won 3 of, listen to this. Arizona won 2 of 3 against BYU. They lost Friday 5-12. They won Thursday, or lost Thursday 5-12. They won Friday 5-4, and they won Saturday 7-5. They barely beat BYU, and they're a regional host. What? That's why the whole thing makes no sense. The whole thing, because let's say if Georgia Tech is the number 1 2 seed, well, shouldn't the number 1 2 seed go to like the best or the worst host? Right? The whole point of it being like these regional, what ends up happening, just like you said, Zach, is that Oregon State will get like a cakewalk regional, whereas Texas and like look at Clemson's regional right now. Clemson's regional is 2 ACC teams in George Mason. Arizona shouldn't be a host. The committee doesn't want 2 regionals in Oregon. They will move it around later. I'm an idiot, Lafayette. I thought you had them as guests. I was like, damn, you're really looking Etheridge up live? No, dude, no. They will rework the Okay, so you're saying they're just putting out all the seedings and then they're going to mix and match them after that? Is that what you're saying, Zach? Okay, they just put the seeds by conference. Okay, because I'm looking at it. Okay, because yeah, all the seeds are ACC right now. Like it looks like they're going through all the ACC teams and where they're going to be seeded. Okay, that makes more sense. So a guy in the comments just said they are just doing 1 seeds, 2 seeds, etc., not predicting the regionals. Okay. But why does it say 2025 regional projections? Why doesn't it just say 2025 regional seed projections? They will rework their regional later. They're just putting the seeds by conference later. Okay. That makes sense. But the funny thing is this, like, just wait. It's going to be like more, it's going to be closer to what I said than what you would expect. But that is a major issue with the regionals. That's what I'm here for, Kyle. Thank you, Zach. Thank you. Where's the guy that asked me if I was looking for national coverage? What's his name? Let me find him in this chat here. Steve Moser. I want national coverage. I'm looking for national coverage. Let me see if I can pull myself back up now. Actually, I'm just going to see if I can do this. Can you guys see that fine or no? I'm guessing no. We'll just do this so you guys can see everything. All right, so now they're going through the next conference. Arizona State is a 3 seed. Kansas State is a 3 seed. All right, let's see. To me, if I'm looking at these, like Vandy's all of a sudden, like there's going to be so much chaos in this again, and we're a month away. We're basically a month away from the conference tournaments. Put this chat on ESPN. Put this chat on ESPN, man. I got to get my face back on screen, guys, because I need national coverage. Kendall looks bored. He does kind of look bored. Let me just put this chat down for a second. Kendall does look bored. UConn is a 3 seed. Xavier is a 3 seed as the conference tournament winner. I guess they're predicting that Arizona will win the conference, and I guess that would be enough to boost them into a seed. So I guess that makes it a little bit more realistic that they're predicting Arizona to be the conference champion. Again, but look at these 2 seeds. Look at these ACC 2 seed. Like, it's you know what it looks like to me, guys. What it looks like to me is that the teams that aren't the top teams in the ACC, but are still like should be hosts. And again, like Georgia Tech has the best record in the ACC, pretty much. For some reason, they're like, oh, you don't get to be hosts, but all the teams in the SEC that are at like 500 are hosts. So Auburn's the 11th seed. Isn't Auburn 500 in the SEC right now? Vanderbilt's kind of like just above 500. Georgia's getting close to 500. It just seems like they have enough room for like 8 SEC hosts. But as of this projection, you have Clemson, Florida State, North Carolina, and that's it. 3 ACC hosts. But you have 1, 2, 3 West Coast hosts. What? Again, it's like, unfortunately, it seems like the ACC is being hurt because they really are. We'll call it like it is. The SEC is the best conference in college baseball. Now, the ACC is close, right? There's definitely a gap, but the ACC is the next best, and then there's a pretty big gap between third best and the ACC. And unfortunately, what that looks like it means in terms of regional hosting is that let's look up these records, man. Let's look up these records. Let's look up these records here in ACC standings. Okay, so as of right now, I'm picking up the wrong one. All right, so Georgia Tech is a projected 2 seed. They have the second best record in the ACC behind Clemson. They're 14-7. They're a projected 2 seed. Next is Florida State. They're projected number 1. Next is North Carolina State at 12-6. North Carolina State's projected a 2 seed. After that is North Carolina, who's 13-8. They're a projected host. Next is Duke, who's 12-9. Duke's a projected 3 seed, right? 3 seed, 12-9 in the ACC. If Duke finishes like they have, they're going to be over 15 wins, and they're going to be a 3 seed? How does that make sense? I don't know, but like let's see what you guys are saying. Big East should be on one bid league. Yeah. I think the SEC top 10 or 12 are good enough. They consider those losses a wash, don't really hurt them. What would Xavier's record be in this SEC or ACC? Not good. I don't know. I think the top of the ACC is strong, but overall conference is not. I think the Big 12 is not as strong at the top, but is strong throughout the conference. I mean, I don't know, Buck. Like, let's talk about the teams that are in the ACC. Clemson, Georgia Tech, Florida State, North Carolina, Duke, Louisville all have winning records in the ACC. Miami's at 500. Virginia's at 500. Wake Forest is 10 and 11. Virginia Tech is 10 and 11. Now, after that, Boston College, Notre Dame, Pitt, Stanford, Cal, those bottom five teams are not as good. But that means there's 11 teams in the ACC that could win a weekend series against an SEC team. Virginia Tech was in the top 25 this year. Wake Forest, Virginia. Miami wasn't, but they're playing really well now. Louisville, Duke, North Carolina State, Florida State, Georgia Tech, Clemson. I think it's a little bit I think the ACC this year for some reason is underrated big time. Agree with that, Buck. Big 12 top to bottom is overall good. I'm not saying that. Dusty, I can't just let's look at the Big 12 standings. Dusty, sorry I forgot to tell you, man. All right. Do you want baseball guys have a say in the votes? I don't think so. All right, let's look at the Big 12. You have Utah at 5 and 13, BYU at 6 and 12, UCF at 6 and 12, Houston at 6 and 11, Oklahoma State at 6 and 9. The Big 12 only has 6 teams over 500. I don't know, boys. I'm looking at this. I'm looking at the Big 12 and I'm looking at the ACC, and it's not close. Just to be honest. And then we look at the SEC rankings. I mean, this is where it's really gonna stand through. D1 Baseball should hire Kyle. Hey, they need content. I'm their man. All right, let's look. All right, so right now, looking at the host, Georgia is a projected host in the SEC at 10 and 8. Vandy at 11 and 7. So basically, all the teams that are like not even decently above 500. Georgia's 10 and 8, and they're projected 10th overall seed. Vandy's a national seed. Tennessee's a national seed. LSU's a national seed. Arkansas is a national seed. Texas is a national seed. So, what you're basically telling me is that the SEC is just way better than the ACC, and I don't necessarily believe that. Yeah, Dusty, we're kind of talking about how it just looks like from D1 Baseball's perspective that the ACC is the ACC is definitely underrated. And then you have teams on there that TCU's not even in the top 25 for D1 Baseball, but they're the 16th overall seed. TCU is not even in the top 25, and they're projected to be a top 16 seed. Yeah, I agree, Zach. They probably will project Georgia Tech to Athens. That will be just a complete shootout offensively. Again, Auburn, guys, Auburn is 9 and 9 in the SEC. They're 9 and 9 in the SEC, which is good tied for 9th in the SEC, and they're the 11th overall seed. Can we just talk about that for a second? Auburn is 9, and don't get me wrong, 9 and 9 in the SEC is great, but is it you're the number 11 seed? That to me is kind of insane. No way TCU hosts. There might be some SEC bias in here. And again, I'm not saying the SEC should have the most hosts. I'm just saying, why are teams again, let's go back to it. Look at the ACC. Georgia Tech is second in the ACC right now, record-wise, and they're 29 and 11 overall, and they're not projected to be a host. North Carolina State is 12 and 6. They're not projected to be a host. North Carolina is 13 and 8. They're almost a national seed. Duke is 12 and 9. Louisville's 10 and 8. They're a projected 2 seed. Georgia's 10 and 8, and they're not. They're a national seed almost. Where is Alabama? Well, Alabama Alabama should be in there, right? Let's see where Alabama's at right now in the rankings. Alabama's 9-9. Like, look at listen how crazy this is, guys. Auburn is 9-9, and they're the 11th overall seed. Alabama is 9-9 with a 31-10 record. They have 4 more wins than Auburn, and they're not even on the list. Now they'll probably come in. They'll probably get them squeezed in as a 2 seed, but Alabama has a better record. Now Auburn's RPI, I guess, is higher, but again, it's just like that's why RPI is kind of ridiculous. Auburn does have some strong wins. You're right. Like Auburn's beaten Georgia Tech right on the road. A terrible week, no doubt, but doesn't take away a body of work to this point. Got a chance to finish with an 18 to 20 conference wins. That's historically a host 100% of the time. Yeah, I agree. Like, again, if Georgia Tech just goes 2 out of 3 the remaining way, they're at 20 wins in the ACC. That has to be a national seed. If they just win 4 more games out of the remaining 9, so if they go 4-5, they're 18-12, that has to be a host. Or you're essentially just completely discrediting the ACC as a conference, which makes no sense. They have Iowa as an at-large. They haven't done the SEC 2 or 3 seeds yet. Yeah, I get it. I mean, Alabama will be in there. But it's just crazy to me that Auburn has the same record and less overall wins by not like 1 or 2, it's by 4. Auburn has 4 less wins. But Alabama's not a host. Seems like D1 baseball is strictly using RPI. Let's go to let's see here. Yeah, I mean, Iowa right now is 17-4 and is leading the Big Ten, but Iowa's not a host. But UCLA is. And I know the RPI ranking is a lot different. But still, I mean, it's a little bit crazy to see some of these things. TCU is 4th or tied for 2nd. Okay, tied for 2nd, but there's 3 teams tied for 2nd in the Big 12. They're the 16th overall seed, even though they're not even in the top 25. Kansas is 12-6. They don't have a host. Zach, if GT doesn't get a host at 18 or 20 wins, they needed to just be an independent like Oregon State. Yeah, I mean, the Oregon State thing to me is just mind-blowing how they're number 3 in the country. I mean, it's unbelievable to me. I don't get it at all. I really don't get it. Oregon State's got the number 9 RPI, but they're 69th in strength of schedule. It doesn't match any of the other top seeds. Iowa hasn't played anyone yet. That'll change as they have 2 West Coast series coming up, I believe. That makes sense. So Iowa really could play themselves into a host. Let's look up Iowa's. It's like Boise State in football. They'll get exposed. Sure. Let's look up the Iowa schedule here. So Iowa has Indiana next weekend or this coming weekend. Then they have Washington. They play Oregon State in a weekend series. That'll be big at the beginning of May. May 9th is the start of that. Then they play Oregon. So if Iowa takes business against Oregon State, again, if a team like Iowa beats Oregon State, like Oregon State has to drop immensely because Iowa's not even in the top 25, I don't think. No, they're not. And then they beat Oregon as well. Iowa can play themselves into a regional host for sure. But again, it's just like it's not a perfect science. There's always going to be disagreement with like these projections, and they're never going to be correct. But some of it, to me, is a little bit ridiculous in a sense that it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense where some of these people are seated. Some of these teams are seated. Do you think UConn has the resume to be an at large? Let's look. Rest of the SEC at large are now in. So Alabama, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Kentucky. So Alabama's, so SEC's got, let's see how many teams total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. What is that, 12 teams in for the SEC? And the ACC would have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The ACC would have 8. 9, 10. So the ACC would have 10, the SEC would have 12. That tracks. All right, let's look at UConn. No, there's no way that UConn can have a at-large, in my opinion. They're 21-17. How does that get you an at-large? I know they're doing well in conference, but I don't know how you. I don't know. I feel like you got to be dominating. East Carolina would have to win the American probably to get in. American is a one-bid league probably. UTSA is the only American team that is for sure in. Every other American team would have to win the conference. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think UConn, to me, I don't know how they get an at-large. That would be very surprising. And no, the SEC also has Florida and Mississippi State. So the SEC gets Florida gets in. Florida gets in. Okay. So right now, D1 baseball has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 SEC teams of 16 are in. I guess, yeah, their RPI is high. They play in the SEC, but my point is that, Florida's RPI is 24. Okay. But they're 6-12 in conference. Like, they're going to have to win. They got 12 games left. Just to get to 13 wins, they got to go 7 and 7 and 5 the rest of the way. I don't know, man. I don't know. But I agree, Florida doesn't feel like a tournament team this year. Yeah, it's Like, let's look at, again, I mean, you look at the ACC and they have teams not in who are at basically right at 500. Like, there's no teams. Virginia Tech and Wake Forest are the last teams in for the ACC, and they're 10-11. The only teams with like a similar record to Florida are in the ACC is like Notre Dame. They're 7-14. Remember, Florida has the head-to-head over Miami. Sure. Again, it's just at some point, basically, what they just have to come out and say it. Like, if you play in the SEC and you're like and you're in the bottom, let's say the bottom quarter of the conference, you still have a chance of getting in. Yeah, I think Florida's going to have to win some games. But again, it helps when you have someone on the committee. Who does Florida play this weekend? Let's look. Speaking of Wake Forest, Nick Kurtz got called up to the A's. Yeah, I mean, he was just dominating in AAA. Definitely well deserved. All right, so Florida right now plays Arkansas coming up. So they play one of the best teams in the country. Then they play South Carolina, which that should be a series win for them based on how. But South Carolina looking like they're playing better now. Then they play Texas, and then they finish with Alabama. So Florida's going to have to beat some really good teams to finish strong. Midweek versus Georgia Southern, then Arkansas at home. Yeah, it's a tough slate. Want to talk chaos? What if A&M takes 2 or 3 or sweeps Texas this weekend? Dude, like I said, man, A&M is going to be trouble for every team the rest of the way. It would not surprise me at all if they take the series against Texas. And that, again, that's going to be must-watch TV with the whole drama with Schloss leaving and how that went down. That crowd is going to be loud. Do they not have Troy in? Yeah, I know. I'm trying to figure that out. Like, they have Troy and Southern Miss, who both should be in. I mean, Troy is number 20. Southern Miss is number 22. Like, so they're a top 25 team in the country, and they're listed outside of the 2 seeds. Are they trying to figure out if Troy will be Troy and Southern Miss will be the 3 seeds at UCLA and TCU? They have Troy in, but too many 2 seeds. And again, look, what they'll do is they'll take out Wake Forest or they'll take out Virginia Tech. And so, like, basically the rule of thumb in the ACC is you got to finish at 500 to be a 2 seed. But like a team like Florida who's going to finish below 500 in the SEC, like well below 500, is going to be a 3 seed. You could slide A&M and Kentucky over to the 3 seed, or you just put Troy and Southern Miss as 3 seeds. Do you think they'll try to make up the UVA FSU games? Probably not, with only a few weeks left. The only thing I could think, and again, it depends on. The problem is this: like maybe they both have like a non-conference weekend late in the series coming up. I don't know, but that team isn't just going to say, "Well, yeah, we'll let you play your conference weekend and not play us," because then that's 3 games that could help them out for their tournament chances, depending on the opponent. So I don't see, Buck, how they can make it up. There's no time to do it. It has to be on a weekend. You have to play 3 games, and you can't do that in the middle of the week. You know, you can't do a midweek 3-game series and then have to play a weekend conference series. All your pitchers are going to get shot or are going to be shot from workload. So there's just no way. I don't see there's any way they can do it unless they have a non-conference weekend coming up and that teams are willing to kind of concede it. Ole Miss should be a 3 seed. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The whole thing is confusing to me, man. FSU has all conference games left. Yeah, so there's no way. There's no way they can make it up. So UVA's only hope is a run in the ACC tournament. Yeah, kind of. But Ole Miss, how is Ole Miss like? Here's the other thing that's crazy: is Ole Miss. Ole Miss is 10-8 in the SEC, and Auburn is 9-9, and Ole Miss is a projected 2 seed. I mean, I don't know, man. It's like Oklahoma's 10-8. They're a projected 2 seed. Like Auburn's got a way better RPI, don't get me wrong, but again, it's like if the SEC is the best conference in baseball, like shouldn't we be going off of their SEC record, like most of it? Shouldn't that be what like the majority of it is weighted on? So UVA's only hope is a run in the ACC tournament. Yeah, I mean it's looking that way. They either have to dominate the remaining schedule, or they still have to play really well and have a good run in the ACC tournament. That's the only way they're getting in. Oh, man. It's a little bit crazy to me. Let's turn the volume on and listen to what these guys are saying.
Is why the RPI is so high. And they won a lot of games. Big Kiddos, yeah, whatever. 28 non-conference SOS. So, yeah, they're in the mix.
All right.
So that's our field.
Yeah.
Next 5.
Well, real quick, our at-large changes. Here's what I got.
Okay.
Miami replaces Virginia. UConn replaces UTRGV. And Florida replaces Mississippi State. 3 changes. Does that sound right to everybody? I think that's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We also have a bunch of AQ changes, which, once again, it's just week after week, just like shuffle them in, shuffle them out. Got about nine changes there, which will be noted in the stock report.
Have you heard of Florida Muskrat and Pensacola?
Guys, I had the next
Gulf Coast plays of the day. Yeah, I have.
As we went. Southeastern Louisiana.
So their first 4 out are Southeastern Louisiana, UT Rio Grande Valley, Mississippi State, Virginia.
I like it.
UC Santa Barbara, who everyone thought was going to be, was the highest ranked mid-major to start the year, not projected to make the tournament right now.
Yeah, I don't feel like, and this can be kind of our final thoughts, but like, it just seems like there's not a lot of bubble contenders right now. A lot of compelling contenders overall.
Are you calling it a hashtag soft bubble?
Yeah, there you
go. Soft bubble. Which means like next week there's gonna be like 14 teams in the mix.
I feel like it's always it's a rite of spring. Week 11 every year we get to a soft bubble, and we're always like, where are all the bubble teams? And then talk to us in 4 weeks. I'm like, oh God, the bubble, it's hard.
And in their years where you start tournament week with a soft bubble.
Yeah, that's true.
Tuesday we do a field and it's this is easy. We breeze through it, and then by Friday it's like, we don't have enough room.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's been really interesting so far this year is like there are teams out there that have essentially eliminated themselves from the bubble already. Like East Carolina, for the most part, has eliminated itself. Baylor, for the most part, has kind of eliminated itself. Oklahoma State, I mean, unless they go on some sort of hellacious run, has eliminated itself. Michigan, just kind of going up the list here. Hawaii's probably not in a very good spot. So, I mean, things could change with these teams going to run, but for now, they're not in a very advantageous spot.
Yeah. The main thing.
All right, let's. We're gonna turn this off for now. Obviously, again, with D1 baseball, the only thing I can think is that kind of the ACC is kind of lumped in as the same as the Big Ten and the Big 12. That's kind of what you're looking like. When, in my opinion, I have to go on eStream later today. Yeah, probably later tonight with obviously with the games going on and stuff. We'll be on. So see you, White House. To me, the ACC is, I think, a significant upgrade, and again, like relatively speaking, over the Big 10 and Big 12 as far as competition in the conference. The SEC is a leg up on the ACC, or the SEC is a leg up on the ACC. But it looks like the ACC is kind of being regarded as the same as the other 3 Power 4 conferences. There's a great tweet actually here from Alex Gould. I'm not going to pull it up, but there are currently 7 NCAA baseball schools who have 10-plus Quad 1 wins. They are Texas, Vandy, Tennessee, Auburn, Alabama, Georgia Tech, and Virginia Tech. Right, so I think, to me, I just don't understand how Georgia Tech is not a host currently, even with a really bad week, right? Like Dusty said earlier, one bad week does not negate a whole season of really good play. And again, they're 3 outs away from beating the number 2 team in the baseball in Clemson. How much do you think Pitt, Cal, Notre Dame, Stanford, and maybe BC are hurting the ACC? They definitely are, right? Like I said, the top 11 teams in the ACC are all really good. Outside of that, there's a significant drop to the level of play. I do think Boston College is going to be better in a year or two under Todd and Arenado. I do think Stanford is just like, it's really hard to explain how bad Stanford has played when they started out so hot, right? They started out 5-1 in ACC play, with one of those a series win over UNC. So like Stanford's fall needs to be studied for decades. And I still think Stanford, when they come to town, like you're still worried about them just because that they beat UNC and swept NC State early in the year, and both those teams are playing really well now. But Pitt and Cal and Notre Dame, it's a step down in competition when you go there. Well, Javi Baez is Tigers' everyday center fielder going forward. Hopefully it works out. I know he's played pretty well out there. I mean, he's an athlete. I sent you a video of Javi Baez. What are your thoughts? Yeah, I think that's a tough read. Like, Zach, when I look at these, like, I'll pull it up and just talk through it so you guys can all kind of understand what I'm seeing and the reason I'm saying it. So this is a single. I think a lot of people thought Javi Baez should have caught this. I'll tell you why it's a difficult read. We'll watch the whole play and then we'll go back.
This is flared to center field. Baez charging. He's not going to make the catch, but he did a good job of baiting Tatis over at third.
Okay, so why is this a tough read? Well, first, let's look at how high it goes off the bat. As a center fielder, when you see a line drive-ish ball hit to you that's over your head, unless you can tell he really got jammed, which, you know, he Bogarts does get jammed, you can't, unless you just get a perfect read, you have to make sure this isn't over your head. And Baez is playing deep, right? Everybody plays deep in the big leagues now. So this looks like it lands pretty far into the outfield, but he's playing so deep, it's hard to get to. But this is a tough read. This is one of those the tougher reads for a center fielder. Ball hit right at you, lower trajectory. You have to make a quick decision. Is this hit really far or is this hit shallow? You know,
flared to center field. Baez charging. He's not,
and he does kind of pull up on it here at the last second, which to me,
center field.
Again, look at his angle here. He was running this way. And again, this is the inexperience in center field. When a right-handed hitter hits this ball, it's typically going to fade back towards right field. So he was running this direction, and then he changes direction to come down here.
There to center field, Baez charging.
But he pulls up. Maybe he could have got there and dove for it. It would have been a tough play. I don't expect Javier Baez, who's never played center field, to make that play. Did you talk through Cantarella's home run, Robbie, from this past weekend? I didn't see it. Can you send it to me, Buck? Will you do a live stream for the MLB draft in July? Yeah, we definitely can. We definitely can. I didn't see it, Buck. I have to go, actually. But tonight on the stream, send it to me.